Black Ops 7 Zombies is officially here, and I had over 4 hours of playtime throughout Ashes of the Damned and Dead Ops Arcade 4, so this is going to be my first impressions review of the game. At this current moment, Easter eggs are disabled, meaning we cannot do any Easter egg on Ashes of the Damned, which of course means this isn't a full review of the experience, it's just my first impressions of the game as it is. We're going to go through the positives and then go through the negatives and just overall talk about how I feel about this game at this current moment. Starting off with the positives, the map itself is visually very nice. Now, I do have some issues with the colors of the map. They are a bit washed. There are some settings you can change to make it look a lot better, but I don't like touching with those settings because then sometimes it makes other maps in the game not look as good, because sometimes maps already look good by default, and changing these settings make those other maps look bad. So I'm not going to keep changing settings back and forth just depending on what map or mode I'm playing in the game. But by default, I think the colors are a bit washed out, but in some areas it actually looks really nice. For example, the Blackwater Lake area looks extremely good. That's of course the snowy log cabin. That area looks amazing. I love being there. I also love being at exit 115. Really, any area with snow looks very good. But when it comes to Van Dorn Farm, even the spawn area at the Janus Towers Plaza, those areas don't look great. Even Ashwood, it kind of has some weird haziness to it that I'm just not a big fan of. But there are quite a lot of areas in this map that do look really good. So overall, I am happy with the visuals, but I do think they could use a little bit of work. When it comes to the lore of the map, I really do love the fact that each point of interest has its own storyline to it. And I've only heard some of the intel so far, but it is pretty interesting that each location seems to have some sort of murder go down at it, whether it's a lot of murders or just a few. Like, for example, at the Blackwater Lake, there's a movie director that was there and apparently killed someone to try and spark real fear into them, to try to make them a better actress or whatever. And I thought that was a really interesting story element to add to that specific point of interest. I know for Van Dorn Farm, there was apparently a family of cannibals there. So there's like all these different lore elements being thrown into each point of interest that I think is really interesting and definitely adds to the atmosphere of the map. When it comes to the guns, I'm really enjoying using them in Black Ops 7. This obviously goes for the multiplayer as well, but I'm just a bigger fan of futuristic guns. I think there's more uniqueness to them. Black Ops 6's guns felt kind of stale and just not that interesting, and they honestly didn't feel that unique from one another. But in this game, they honestly do so far. I'm having a blast using each and every one of them. The attachments are pretty fun. There's obviously going to be a lot of camos to unlock, and that's just a universal thing for the entirety of Black Ops 7, including the campaign, Warzone, and multiplayer, but it's going to be really fun in Zombies to just go for all these camos. There's also way more enjoyable equipment and score streaks because of the futuristic setting as well. Now, unfortunately, those are going to be thrown into every single map as streamlined systems because that's what modern Zombies loves to do, but they are still really fun to use. I loved using the dog score streak. That was really cool. There's also the psych grenade, which basically turns a bunch of zombies near you into brain rot zombies, and I thought they were pretty interesting to mess around with. They also heavily nerfed the mutant injection. Of course, we don't have the Black Ops 6 mutant injection, but they did give us the Disciple injection, and it is a lot worse than the Mangler injection from Black Ops 6, which I'm very happy about. I did not like how overpowered the mutant injection was in BO6, so I'm glad that this time around it's really not that great. It still is fun to use, but I don't see this being the high round meta unless I'm just using it very, very wrong, but I really doubt this is going to be some overpowered strategy like it was in Black Ops 6. I do enjoy driving the truck on Ashes of the Damned. Even though we don't have any of the upgrades yet, it still is fun to bring this from point of interest to point of interest. I know some people don't like the fact that it kind of feels Warzone-y with the idea of having a vehicle that you can drive around, but I do like this as a map unique feature. Obviously, I do not want to see this come into any other map in this game, but on Ashes of the Damned itself, I do enjoy the idea of having to take a truck from location to location. I don't think it's executed perfectly, and we'll talk about that in the negatives, but in general, I do enjoy driving this truck around. And I like how it's not very durable because there's many instances where a bunch of zombies will attack it and destroy it, so you have to actually go on foot through the fog to get to your next location because it's not an indestructible truck. When it comes to the special enemies, I really do enjoy Zerza and the Ravengers. They are really good special enemies. We've already seen them in the beta, of course, so they're not really new to this experience, at least for those who did play the beta, but I do still enjoy how they work on Ashes of the Damned. I've actually died to them multiple times. I don't really die to the zombies on this map. It's really only ever by the special enemies, which I think is totally fine. I've only used the TED tasks 3 times on this map, but each time I've used it, it has given a challenge that I thought was pretty interesting. It is very similar to the SAM trial system, but I really enjoyed one of the challenges it gave me, which was a racing minigame with the truck. You have to take the truck around the map in a specific amount of time. That was really fun. I've mentioned many times before, I love minigames like that in zombies. I think we need more of them, and I don't like how Black Ops 6 had minigames specifically as one-time only side Easter eggs. I think they're much more enjoyable when it's something you can keep doing again and again and again. And I'm assuming if this is part of the TED task system, it is probably something you can do again and again and again in the same match. But overall, I really enjoyed that, and I want to see more stuff like that in the game. But for the other maps in Black Ops 7, I hope they find a different way to implement these sort of mini games. Don't just do TED tasks again. I do not want to see TED tasks on every single map. I think that would be a massive negative for the game. It would be a way to make the maps feel too similar to each other, and we need these maps to feel different. We should not have the exact same streamlined systems on every single map. They should give unique trial systems for the other maps. One thing I really did love about the TED tasks, and I think it's going to be the same for all side quests that reward you with loot in Black Ops 7, is that when they give you perks, instead of giving you an actual perk in the game, it just gives you a random perk, which is a good thing because in Black Ops 6, sometimes you would get a perk from the SAM trials and it would be a perk you already had, so it wouldn't help you at all. But now that it gives you random perks, you are guaranteed to get a perk you don't currently have. Also, something really cool they added is if you have every single perk in the game and you get a random perk, it will give you a permanent perk, which I thought was a really cool change. So for example, I had every perk in the game. I did the TED tasks and it gave me permanent Volterade and permanent Juggernog because I got 2 free perks. Instead of it just not working because you already had all the perks, they actually gave you permanent versions of them. So even when you go down, you still keep those perks, which is absolutely insane. That's going to be a broken system. Like imagine that for boss fights, for example. Like it's going to give you a really good reason to actually do a lot of side quests, even if you already have all the perks in the game. So this was a great change. One of my favorite things about this game, personally. There's a new feature on this map where you can grab a fumigator, and a number of locations are on the map, and you can actually grow a plant. And the plant you have to actually defend in this little lockdown sequence. And if you can defend it successfully, it will give you some sort of loot reward. Each time I usually got points and that was it, but there was one time where I got a Casimir grenade. So I think that is a pretty cool little system. It's not like the most in-depth mechanic ever, but it is something that at least you can mess around with on this map, and I think it was pretty fun. In general, this game is obviously an improvement over Black Ops 6. It feels better, it plays better, and there's way more content and way more things to mess around with, especially when it comes to stuff like augments. They've added a lot more augments to the game now, and quite a lot of the augments are actually going to make the game a lot better. For example, the Volterade augment that lets it so you can just automatically pick up plates instead of having to replate them yourself. When you just walk over them, they will immediately go into your armor vest. So I love that change, and I just overall like the feel of this game more than Black Ops 6. I really can't think of anything Black Ops 6 does better. It's one of those situations where going back to Black Ops 6 is going to feel absolutely disgusting. And by far the biggest positive with Black Ops 7 Zombies so far, without a doubt, and it might honestly end up being my favorite part of this game when it's all said and done, and that is Dead Ops Arcade 4. Oh my goodness, it is so much fun. And now I was fully expecting to love Dead Ops Arcade 4 because I love Dead Ops Arcade 3, love Dead Ops Arcade 2, don't really love Dead Ops Arcade 1 that much, but it still is fun for what it is. But it's just been getting better and better as they've gone through the iterations, and so I was fully expecting this to be even better than Dead Ops Arcade 3. Now, I'm not entirely confident if it's better than Dead Ops Arcade 3 just yet, but I can surely tell you I loved my time playing it. I enjoyed it way more than I enjoyed playing Ashes of the Damned, and I only got to like round 24. There's like almost 80 levels through Dead Ops Arcade 4 to go through, and the fact that I only got to 24 is kind of crazy. There's really fun boss battles, there's really interesting arenas, there's all these environmental hazards you have to deal with, and the experience was so much fun. I recommend it to literally everyone, and even if you don't like the whole top-down arcade style that this mode goes with, then play the first-person mode. Trust me, you will love it. It plays very similarly to round-based zombies. You can slide, you can aim down your sights. It, of course, just feels a little bit different, but it is so much fun. There are so many cool things you could pick up. The jet gun is available in it, the Wonder Waff. There's these crazy special enemies you have to fight in this. Most of them come from Black Ops 6, but they actually work really well in the Dead Ops Arcade format. The music is outstanding. Like, I haven't even gotten through like 25% of it, and I was having the time of my life. I cannot wait to go back to it and play it more, and hopefully by the end of it, when I finish it, I will like it even more than Dead Ops Arcade 3, but I had a blast. Like I said, it is worth playing. It is the best part of this game so far, without a doubt. Now let's get into the negatives, and my first negative is one that I have to give a massive disclaimer for, because I do think this will obviously change when the Easter eggs become enabled, when we get to try out the side Easter eggs, because Easter eggs give maps so much more life pretty much every single time. But I do think my experience on Ashes of the Damned, I was kind of feeling like the map was a bit lifeless. It didn't really feel like it had enough to it. There really wasn't much to do. Obviously, I mentioned there's a few little things to do. You have the TED tasks, you have the little plant lockdown things, but those don't really add a ton of depth to the experience. When I was just going around the map and killing zombies, I just felt like there really wasn't a lot to it. And like I said, obviously when it comes to all the side Easter eggs and main Easter egg stuff, it's gonna make it feel different. But I do wish that they were able to make the maps feel more in depth, even without the Easter egg content. A great example is a map like Zombies in Spaceland. You can play Zombies in Spaceland and have an absolutely great time without doing any Easter egg related content. And I wish that maps nowadays can do that as well, but I just don't feel that way. But if there is a crap load to this Easter egg, if there are so many steps, if there's a lot of complexity to the Easter egg, if there's lots of complex side Easter eggs, then I will instantly change my opinion on this statement right away. Like, I don't need to have a bunch of stuff in the map itself if there's already a bunch of stuff to the Easter eggs. That's totally fine. I just wanted to point out here, my first time playing the experience, it did feel kind of lifeless. The map also doesn't feel nearly as big as we thought it was going to be. Now, of course, objectively, it is the biggest round-based zombies map, but that's because they're including all of these fog areas, which quite literally currently have nothing to them. I tried to explore them a bit. There really wasn't anything there. Like I said, I'm sure there's going to be Easter egg stuff to explore, but I was hoping there was going to be more of an exploration process in these fog areas like there was in Transit. Now, I'm not even trying to defend Transit that much because obviously Transit's one of the worst maps ever made, but at least Transit did have some secrets you can explore in the fog. Like, think about the first time you were exploring the fog and you came across the cabin in the woods and you saw that there was a Bowie knife on the wall in the cabin, or when you came across Noctur and Toten through the cornfields and you were like, oh my god, Noctur and Toten's here. Like, those were exciting moments, and I tried to explore the fog. Maybe I'm just missing it. There really wasn't anything there. There was the boat, which there was quite literally nothing there at this current moment. Again, there might be stuff added with the Easter egg, but as it currently is, there really isn't anything to explore. So the map itself basically just feels like the points of interest, and that's about it. And the points of interest aren't that big. They're kind of small. So when you combine the points of interest themselves together, you start to realize the map is actually not that big. It really isn't. The areas that you're actually going to be playing in, the areas that you're going to be spending your time in, is not that big. I really don't like the fact that they were using biggest map in Zombies history as a big selling point for this map, considering the actual main playable spaces combined is probably smaller than the majority of maps out there. And I do think this would be less of an issue if there was an actual reason to be in those fog areas, but there is quite literally zero reason when it comes to the core gameplay, and I'll tell you why. Because you earn 0 points in the fog. Why? This is by far my least favorite aspect of this map. So I really do like that the fog areas are pretty hard to survive in. Like, the zombies are brutal. They will run at you hard. It is not easy to survive. There are so many zombies, but you earn 0 points. So like, there is never a reason to actually be out in the fog killing zombies, which, by the way, when I say the fog, I just mean the areas in between at the points of interest. There really isn't any fog there, so it's not really the fog the way that Transit is, but those areas, there's no reason to be there because the zombies don't give you any points, not even a single point. So you just feel like you're wasting your time if you're out there killing zombies. You might as well just run to the next objective. But I think it'd be really, really cool if they made it so you do earn points, but it's kind of a risk versus reward scenario, because yes, you're going to get a lot of points from the zombies there, but you're also in danger all the time because of how threatening the zombies are out there. But I actually think I would try to survive out there in those areas more often if I could actually get points from it. I have no idea why they decided to make it so you get no points. I think in their mind they were thinking, oh, we don't want people to cheese points out there, but you're not really cheesing points because it's really hard to survive out there. So I don't really understand that thought process. I hope that's something they could change down the line, because to me it's one of the worst things about this map, and I think it's going to kill a lot of the fun factor that you could normally have in those fog areas if points were actually available in those areas. This next negative is something you guys have heard me say 1,000 times at this point, but I have to talk about it. And of course, some of these problems will be alleviated with cursed mode. Unfortunately, not all the problems, but some of them will be. And this is just the fact that I don't like the modern zombies mechanics. I don't. I really don't. I think they're fine for what they are, but I'm sick of them at this point. We've had them since 2020, and I think we really need something very, very different. And like I said, I hope Cursed can provide that in as many ways as possible. We know it's not going to provide it in every single way. For example, rarities. Rarities are apparently going to be in Cursed mode. Those are not getting removed for Cursed mode. So it's not like we're going to have a wildly different experience in Cursed, but at least when it comes to the point system, we're going to have the classic point system in Cursed. So that's a huge thing. I'm definitely very excited for that. I mean, the point system is my biggest issue with the modern zombies mechanics, and it's definitely my biggest issue with Black Ops 7 standard mode. But when we have the Cursed mode classic point system, it's definitely going to be a lot more enjoyable. Which is part of the reason why I wish they just made it so Cursed mode was available right away, because the fact that I have to play a worse version of the game before I can get to Cursed just doesn't feel very good. Like, I just want to jump into Cursed and just play that throughout the whole year. I don't want to have to stick with this basically Black Ops 6 copy. I mean, it literally is the Black Ops 6 mechanics with a couple of extra changes and a couple of new features, but it literally is Black Ops 6 at the end of the day, and it's just not what I want out of zombies. Like, I don't have a great time playing with these mechanics anymore. I've enjoyed them at certain parts in the past, and I definitely can enjoy maps and Easter eggs with these mechanics overall. I just don't find them very replayable in the long term. And so, like I said, so excited for Cursed mode. I hope it's available on survival maps and the standard maps, and we can just stick to that the rest of the year, sometimes enabling the relics, sometimes not enabling them, whatever it may be. But I know this problem is going to be alleviated partially with Cursed mode, but unfortunately some of the problems might never go away even with Cursed mode, like rarities, for example. And my last negative for Black Ops 7 Zombies at this current moment is the HUD. I think the HUD settings and a lot of the HUD problems are really bad in Black Ops 7 right now. Some of it is just based on glitches and bugs. The HUD settings are very bugged to the point where every time you open up the settings, it completely resets all of your settings. But even just beyond that, there's just not enough customization in the way that there should be. Like, for example, why can't we have medals and notifications separated in the HUD settings so people can turn on notifications while turning off medals? It makes no sense why these are connected. And I do still think the HUD theme itself just doesn't look great. It still is the multiplayer HUD just with like a purple overtone to it, and I just don't think it's that great. It's also not the default HUD for some reason, so you have to actually select it yourself, which means a lot of players are never even going to use it, which, like, what's the point of adding this in if a lot of casual players are never going to even touch it? I don't really understand why that's the case, but it is what it is. All in all, I do think Black Ops 7 Zombies as a whole will be good when it's all said and done, but currently I do have a lot of issues with it that is holding it back. But once we get the Easter egg on Ashes of the Damned, as well as all the side Easter eggs and Cursed mode, I think it's going to be a lot better and more replayable. I cannot wait to experience all of that. But right now, my favorite part of the game has to be Dead Ops Arcade 4. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I will see you on my next one. Peace out.